What's going on, my good people? It's been 10 years of hip hop. Ain't that some shit, huh? 2010s has come to a close. In my opinion, hip hop is still whack. Every year is worse than the other year. But again, there's always something that someone will come out with in the year that's okay, listenable. But it does get worse every year. And so I expect 2020 to not be any better than 2019. But hopefully I'm wrong. All right. So as I do a recap, I'm going to start off with the producers, and I will hit you guys with a bunch of videos, like two or three, that sort of encapsulate this decade to me. But I'll start off with the producers because I think the producers are the most important aspect of hip hop and always have been, in my opinion. And I think it's important to give them the shine and the respect that they deserve because you can do a lot with a hot beat, man. With a lot with a hot beat. You can be total garbage and still have a career pop off. And I'll, give you receipts on that shit. So let's begin. My honorable mentions, and I'm going to do five, but my honorable mentions, I guess this would be sixth place, would go to a bunch of people, right? These are Lil B's producers. So like Aeon Flex, Terrio, Keyboard Kid. I'm forgetting a couple of those guys. I think they are phenomenal and they introduced a whole new sound into hip hop in terms of that video gamey sort of just that idea of making stuff from all kinds of regions. You'll notice that a Lil B, which is what made Lil B so dope, is that he would have beats from all regions. He was the first real internet rapper when you think about it. And shout out to those producers because they made a lot of heat to the point where, of course, people started appropriating them. Like Drake took the I'm Tupac beat and rapped over it. Like Drake has been copying off has been copying off Lil B for years. So we all know this. So shout out to those cats who did a lot of Lil B's, particularly Lil B between like 2009 to like 2015 or so. They really gave Lil B a lot of heat. So another person that I would give props to would be a dude named Lyle. Lyle did the beat for Brand New Guy. Brand New Guy is an ASAP Rocky record. And I think it was very innovative at the time. I don't know if it was just me, but I felt that like that beat in particular was really some new shit. I remember listening to it and just being like amazed at how gorgeous it was. It was the first time I'd ever heard a great trap beat. I remember thinking that the trap genre was, kind of a waste of time because I mean, it's not that there wasn't some decent stuff. I mean, Hard in the Paint was cool. Lex Luger to me was like the guy that would make a gazillion beats and like 99% of them would be trash and then like a couple of them would be really hot. And not like hot in the oh this is going to last a long time, but hot in the okay, I can bop to this in the club type of thing. Um and I remember feeling that Lex Luger's stuff was very repetitive and not in a good way. I mean, hip hop is supposed to be repetitive, but not in the way that his was. And I remember hearing Brand New Guy for the first time, and it felt like it was the first time a trap beat was extended. So, I don't know how to sort of say this. My voice is not the greatest for singing, but there's a part in the Brand New Guy beat that's like sort of towards the second half or latter half of the beat where it goes da, 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 da. Like it's like that sort of triumphant feel to it because Lex Luger's beats to me would like it would have that the beginning part of the Brand New Guy beat and that's where it would end. Like it would just keep looping that part. And I thought that Lyle adding that da, 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 whatever, like that whole shit to me was like some mind blowing shit at the time. So I have to give those guys an honorable mention. And again, when I'm rating these beats, I'm rating them based on how raw they are, how innovative, how interesting, and how beautiful they are, as it should be in hip hop. Because I don't care if your beat hit number one on the charts or whatever. I mean, that's not really relevant to me. What's more interesting to me is always the people that do unique things that are able to push the boundaries while still being like respectful to the genre and still doing stuff that ultimately enhances the genre. That's how I grade stuff. To me, if it's not raw, beautiful, funky, it's not hip hop and it's not really going to make my list. Um, so I've covered that. And oh, Maaly Raw. Maaly Raw is Playboy Cardi's producer and Lil Uzi's producer as well. I think he's done some interesting stuff. Honorable mention, Mike Will, honorable. So those guys, honorable out the way. My number five spot goes to Boy Wonder. So I think Boy Wonder is one of the hottest producers of this decade. He's a big reason why Drake is who he is. I think he's the one that's given Drake his slappers, his bangers, the shit that gets Drake that credibility. You look up any great Drake record, and chances are Boy Wonder had a hand in that shit. So I think that Know Yourself beat is phenomenal. 10 Bands is phenomenal. Like, Boy Wonder has really made some hot shit. Even Best I Ever Had, I thought was a really dope beat. In Again, I wasn't a big Drake fan going in. In fact, I really didn't like how Drake sounded. I thought he was trying to dupe Wayne, and I didn't like Wayne, so he kind of came in sounding like Wayne. But Boy Wonder, I think, helped him flesh out and become Drake. So number five, Boy Wonder. And if you're looking for the beats, I think that are the best ones that he did. Best I Ever Had is up there, but I would say Know Yourself to me is gorgeous, especially that first part, and 10 Bands. I think if you're reading this, it's too late is definitely a highlight, a hip hop highlight of this decade, hands down. So number five goes to Boy Wonder. Number four is interchangeable to me with number three to a certain degree. You could argue one or the other. Number four goes to SpaceGhostPurrp, SGP. Now, SpaceGhostPurrp to me, didn't maximize his opportunity. I give Space Ghost credit for introducing that whole wave, that Memphis wave, basically, that hip hop is now in. I mean, he, among with Lil B, ushered in a whole new sound of hip hop and made hip hop what it sounds like today. And that's through like 2010, 2011 shit. We're still on that wave. Because if you listen back to songs from 2011, trust me, like it's very different from what ASAP Rocky, SGP, Lil B, and shit were doing and introduced to the game. And now the game sounds like them, like watered down versions of them. But you listen to those records, like go listen to Spend It. It's a very different bop. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's Atlanta, yeah, and we're still kind of in that southern, thing, but it's a different bop. A lot of those 2011 records, you can't even listen to them shits anymore. But here comes SGP, and he's doing that whole like, that trap shit, taking these old school sort of like Memphis sounds that nobody really knew about or cared about or were familiar with, and he's bringing them to the forefront. I mean, I remember when Pretty Flacco came out, that shit hit me like a ton of fucking rocks. I was like, what the fuck? And to me, that's actually what made me really become a Rocky fan. Because, I had loved bass and a lot of those other records, but I kind of was like, when Pretty Flacco came out, I was like, oh fuck, like this is the rawest shit I've heard from anybody in like 5-10 years type thing. And it made me go back to Live Love ASAP and re-listen to that shit and go, whoa, like this Rocky dude is coming with some hot shit. So I give SGP the nod, simply because he introduced the whole wave into hip hop. Let's be real. Let's give him his props. Phenomenal beats by him. Obviously, Pretty Flacco. I think that's the best beat he ever made. I think that TAP beat with Wiz Khalifa is probably the second best beat I've ever heard from the dude. And you can recommend some other ones. I think Black God was pretty good. Max Julian, I think he kind of did that beat for Rocky and they flipped it or whatever, but that beat's fire too. So SGP. My third spot goes to Pierre Bourne. I think Pierre Bourne is the new Metro in a way. He's the new guy on the scene that's really killing it. He makes the most interesting beats to me right now. And Metro has kind of, dwindled a little bit, but Pierre Bourne is so hot that a whack rapper like Tekashi 6ix9ine, and best believe Tekashi 6ix9ine was always trash. I mean, I was telling niggas this dude was trash from way before. But of course he was popping. So people always find a reason. When you're popping, they'll excuse your bullshit, right? But I always thought Tekashi vocally was trash for the most part. And especially rhyme-wise. He just made the same song over and over again. But this dude was so lucky to get that Gummo beat, because that Gummo beat is so hard, is so hot, that it basically gave him a career. I mean, let's be honest. And that's what producers do. When I shit on Kanye West and I say that Kanye West is not nowhere near as high a pedestal as people pretend he is, it's because he's never done stuff like a Pierre Bourne. you know, if you are really a great producer, you can introduce new niggas into the game that no one's even heard of. But because your sound is so hot, people go, damn, like, I got to get up on that production. You know what I'm saying? And that's it's a different level of respect that you're going to get. And it's a different level of creativity. So I think Pierre Bourne obviously introduced Takashi in a way to the game, but really Playboy Cardi. And I think that you know, the stuff with Playboy is genius. Woke Up Like This to me is phenomenal. I remember hearing that on some like shit speakers and just being like, what is that? You know, again, raw, simple, beautiful, like just hard hitting and classic. I think the beat for EA with Young Nudie is crazy. Magnolia, obviously, Lame Niggas, like that whole self-titled project, which is one of the best hip hop releases of the decade. Don't get it twisted. So Pierre is really that guy, and Pierre's now doing stuff for like Young Thug, and you know, Young Thug has gotten a little bit of life based on Pierre. So 3, Pierre. Well, number 2 goes to Metro. I think Metro is the defining producer of this decade in a way, because he's the guy that, to me, figured it out and was able to make records that were both underground and felt real hip hop, but transcended and were also able to hit the mainstream without sort of compromising that. And that is a skill set, and that really requires a lot of respect. Metro's dope. I remember hearing Karate Chop when it first came out, and I was like, huh, this is different. Like, whoever made this beat, this person knows how to make a beat. And then he just leveled the fuck up to me. I think he was studying Lil B. He's obviously a Lil B fan. In fact, there's a song Lil B has called I Got Bitches 2014. And I remember playing that for a producer here in Toronto, or at the time, and he was laughing. He was like, yo, there's a song that has this almost exact same beat. And I was like, really? He's like, it's a Future record. And I'm like, word? And he played me Serve the Bass. And Serve the Bass came out a whole year after that Lil B record. And it's almost the same beat. Like, check it out for yourself and you know what I'm talking about. So I know that Metro studies Lil B. I also know that Metro studies RZA, Havoc, all them cats. Because his shit, to me, is very much in line with their stuff. But again, they're just a little bit more accessible. He brought that respectability, that cold, that dark and mysterious and beautiful, raw, weird thing that hip hop has always had. And that's the culture, and made it fly. So Metro, to me, hands down, is at least second, if not number 1 of this decade. And I give him his respect. The best beats he ever did, Jumpman, I think, is up there. That's a top 5 beat for him. And No Advance, 21 Savage, I think that beat is phenomenal. But he has lots of great beats, actually. So he's number 2. And my number 1 goes to Clams Casino. Clams Casino is... How do I describe Clams, man? Clams is in one way, I think, the illest white producer I've ever heard in hip-hop, number 1. But number 2, his shit is so left that I remember hearing it and not understanding it, but I just could not stop listening to it. And that, to me, as a guy that's been listening to hip hop since '97, seriously and heavily, like, when someone does a beat that I don't understand, like, but I know somewhere in my brain subconsciously, I'm like, there's something really dope about this. Like, that shit is crazy. And I love experiencing that. Like, y'all will hopefully, if you continue to listen to hip hop, will get to that point where you've been listening to this genre for so long and you're really into it, and someone will come out with some shit that just rewires how you look at the genre, but still fits into how the genre works at the same time. And it's such a pleasure. I love Clams Casino stuff, man. I mean, bass, I'm telling you, I remember when bass came out, like, I was like, who is this kid named Clams Casino? Who is this guy named A$AP Rocky? Actually, I was familiar with Peso. I like Peso. So I remember bass dropped, I think, like October 20th or 30th, 2011. And I was like, oh, check this out. Clicked it. And he's like, these other niggas so they open off my mojo. Spanish Sophie with a half a kilo by chocho. And that beat, I was just like, wait a second, what is this shit? And I was like, wait, no, this beat's off. Like, it's not looping the way I expect it to loop. Why is it looping like this? This is wrong. But then why can't I stop listening to this shit? And bruh, I listen to that bass beat. When I tell you that I've heard bass maybe 5,000 times, I'm not even kidding you. I'm really not kidding you. I wrote a whole screenplay. I'm a writer, I'm a screenwriter. I wrote a whole screenplay while listening to bass over and over again, just in the background. That's how fucking inspired I was by that shit. So, and it's like an action, fantastic, fantasy piece and shit. Because that's what I like. If you see my channel, you'll see like some kung fu stuff. I'm into that stuff, which is hip hop. But my point is that bass beat, unreal, unfucking real. And the other ones, I took me a minute to warm up to them. I just didn't get it. I remember hearing Palace and thinking it was whack. You know what I'm saying? And hearing Demons and being like, what? Like, this is whack. But and it was Leaf actually, because bass was the one I was so stuck on bass that I couldn't kind of move from it. And then when I heard Leaf, I was like, oh, I fucking get it. Like, Clams does these beats because the fact that these beats would kind of change fucked me up. Like hip hop beats at their best are repetitive and they don't change, but his would like kind of go. It's like telling a story. They would tell a story, but they wouldn't lose energy, which is really fucking hard to do because when you overproduce hip hop, when beats change, the reason why they're whack in most cases is that you lose energy. Once you kind of get out of a certain rhythm or a certain repetition, the energy's gone. And so now the song starts to suck. But Clams would do it in a way where the energy is still there, but you've moved to a different sort of like section. And it fucked with me. But when I heard